Hi, my name is Elizabeth McPherson, and this is my Introduction Module 1 for Curriculum and Evaluation. So a little bit about myself. Um, I am a military wife. We live on post at Fort Riley, Kansas. This is our third duty station. We've gone from Minnesota to Florida and now kind of split the difference in Kansas. We have a 5-year-old daughter who will be going into first grade. So I'm going into actually my 11th year of teaching this year. So I have 10 years of teaching experience in math and special education. I kind of have had the unique experience being a military spouse to have been in 3 separate states teaching at 4 different schools. And so my hope with getting my administrative license is to be in the special education field long term, hopefully. I would like to maybe be district level or kind of a special ed administrator somewhere at some point. Things I do for fun, I enjoy running. I have taken up boxing during quarantine and actually have really enjoyed it. And I'm a former basketball player, so we do lots of basketball in the front yard. And I do math for fun. It's something I love to do. I love going to fairs, especially to eat the fried donuts. And I'm an avid crafter. So, my background is kind of, again, in math and special education. So, I originally got my bachelor's degree in mathematics. I went back and then got my secondary teaching license. And then once I got into teaching, I really kind of fell in love with those kind of edge kids. And so I went back and got my master's in special education, and now finishing my admin license. So that started at Christian Heritage Academy in Minnesota, where I was a math teacher and a special education specialist. I then left once I got my special education degree and went to Academy of Whole Learning, which is a private school for kids on the autism spectrum or with related disabilities. So I was their STEM and math specialist for their high school. Once we left Minnesota, I taught just pure mathematics at high school in Largo. I taught Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and AP Calculus, and I loved it. It was a nice little break from special education, and I got to do higher level math, which was amazing. So now here I am in Junction City, Kansas. I teach at the Junction City Middle School, and I am a behavior specialist in the specialized program. So I have kiddos who are self-contained, um, and kind of get me all day, every day. So, some academic activities that my school uses. One of the ones I use a lot in my special education room is the iReady assessments. So we can do math and reading on those. We do those 3 times a year, and we kind of look into where kids are performing, what areas they're low in. It's kind of your standardized kind of progress monitoring support system. We do have an AVID program that allows students to kind of get that college and career readiness, that those kind of skills, those life skills and academic skills that they need to be successful. Our school runs foundations courses, so these are lower level courses that are accessible by any student, but they're taught by special education teachers. So it's really a cool kind of blend of bringing special education to the general public, you know. So we do have special ed kids in those classes, but any student who would test at 4 years or below their actual grade level would get a foundations course, and this would be taught by a special ed teacher. Our school is a Project Lead the Way school. This is a national STEM initiative that works on robotics, computer programming, a lot of those skills that these articles talk about. It's a really cool program. If you don't know about it, you should look it up. We do have an MTS program and MTSS director, MTSS teachers at every location in our district. Lots of academic clubs that kids can participate in, whether it's STEM, whether it's academic quiz bowl, science clubs, all those kind of things. Being at a military location, we do have an ROTC program at the high school. It's a really good way to kind of get kids involved and interested in the career possibility of the military while also kind of pursuing that high level of academic requirement. There's a class that they take while they're in high school. There's academic programming that they have to kind of meet the requirements of. Another assessment tool our district uses are the ORF and Maze assessments. These are reading fluency. I use these a lot in my special education profession. These are typically given twice a year at our school, and they just kind of help us with that reading fluency. Our district has recently adopted the Wonders Reading Program. It's new this year, so I'm still kind of getting to know it too, but it seems like a really good kind of reading intervention and academic program for that. And then, as most of you do, we participate in state assessments. So our non-academic activities are those sports and athletics, after school clubs. We have something called Renaissance, which is basically a behavior incentive program. So the kids can earn Renaissance points for grades and behavior, and then earn, a popcorn and movie afternoon, earn games, things like that. We do spirit weeks. Those are typically headed by that student council team. We have an advisory period every day, which, yes, does focus on academics, but it does really push that social aspect, especially for our sixth graders new to middle school. We do try to do our community connections. I personally, in my classroom, do a lot of this. I invite community members in. I take my kids out and I try to connect my students to the resources and the people around them. We have our music programming. We have student leadership committees, which meet with our principals and vice principals to just give insight and ideas on what they want the school to look like. And then we do run a safe schools program. We use the CHAMPS model, and this is kind of a school-wide behavior program that really helps kind of everyone be on the same page when we're managing students. So some things that I gained from the resources. So as a special education teacher, I really appreciate kind of this emphasis and look that not all school is academic. Teaching kids with all of the kids I have in my room have a mental health diagnosis. So this is a really key piece of what I do every day. Is there are several days a week that I do very little academics, and I do only non-academics because of the high level of need my students have. So I appreciated kind of this emphasis. So here are some things I gleaned. So insufficient professional development. One of the articles kind of emphasizes that teachers really are lacking the preparation they need to respond to what students are coming to school with. And this is causing inaccurate labeling. And I definitely see this in my profession. Teachers don't understand trauma-based education, trauma-based children, trauma-based behavior. And so we're kind of missing the mark on some of that professional development in our schools. I really like this graphic that one of the articles showed. I think it really shows this importance of multi-tiered programming, that we're not just math, science, English, A, B, C kind of structures, but there's all of these pieces that build who our students are. And these things like traits and habits, growth mindset, soft skills, grit, those are going to build up to provide more academic support as well. I think that one thing I really like that the article emphasizes is that we need to have some proactive attention on these non-academic things. Is that if we're reacting to every trauma and every behavior and every non-academic situation that comes into our school, we're behind the mark. We need to be proactively looking at what our kids are dealing with, what that means for our school setting, and make some actions accordingly. I think that also I like that the article talked about this kind of like we want to, but are we? So this good intentions fall short. So this article talked about how that we're recommending that we do these non-academic skills, that we build these skills in students. However, we rarely hear kids go home and talk about, hey, I learned to be motivated. Hey, I learned how to not procrastinate. Hey, I learned how to work on school. So we know it's good, we want to do it, but are we actually doing it? I think this was another really big one that I noticed, this school programming. So a lot of the articles mentioned that school programming is one of the key elements to this non-academic lessons, that teachers, like I said earlier, teachers are not equipped. We are not getting the professional development. We need to do this all on our own. And so providing school programming that is based on community supports is huge. So I found this article in my own research about communities in school. And what it is it's a school-based program that works on building relationships and identifying the challenges students face at school or at home. So they coordinate with communities to bring outside resources in. So they were kind of talking about the cost breakdown, and I think a lot of us understand that our district would say, oh, we don't have the money. We don't have the money for this program or that program, or we don't have the staff for this or that. But this is showing the kind of school to prison pipeline is super real to me, being a behavior specialist. It's all too clear what that means and what that looks like. So this is saying that for every dollar that this specific program spends, communities and schools, they're getting about an $11.60 return on economic benefit. So basically, the energy they're pouring into students in the school system is paying out once they integrate into the community. And so this graphic just kind of said it all to me. Like, is it worth the cost? Is it worth paying and integrating these programs in our school? $160 is what it costs to keep a student in a school for 1 year. $31,000 is what it costs to keep an inmate in prison. So it does kind of make you think that proactive approach again, where does our money need to go? So that again follows up with that community supports. Do we have the pieces in place, like this says, to bridge the gaps? Where is our school not equipped? And I think it's okay and it's healthy for our schools to admit we're not equipped. We are not teachers with mental health degrees. Some of us, most of us aren't. We are not, we are not clinics. We are not, poverty experts. We're just not. And so to call in the people that can fill those gaps to us is so important and imperative. And it takes a team. It takes that community. There's no way that without that collective effort that we're going to succeed in that. Again, you don't walk into a school and have this kind of platter of everything you need. It takes parents, it takes teachers, it takes the community to fill in all those gaps for a child. And I think it's really important how we're measuring that success, academic and non-academic. So parents in this survey that was given were optimistic about the education their children were receiving, but they did not think that the tests that their children were taking in school were giving long-term outcomes. So essentially what I feel like this is saying, which we all know, is like we're not figuring out these children through tests. They need the academics, they need the information, but we also need to make sure that we're understanding these long-term outcomes for our students. And then to make sure that we're giving equal access to academics and non-academics. So a lot of these educational stakeholders recognize the value in both. They value academics, but they also 8 out of 10 teachers, parents, superintendents, principals valued that non-academic. So I think this is a big thing as educators to understand, like, are we providing that equal opportunity for academic and non-academics? Some schools are, I think some schools aren't. And then I'm, again, a big advocate for mental health because that's all I do all day with my kiddos. The impact of childhood mental health disorders is magnified in children who are poor, who are low income, and they are a disadvantaged group and very vulnerable to untreated behavior problems. I think this just is like my whole life in a nutshell. I think this is like something that grabbed me the most from the research I found. Like this child mental health kind of piece. And this isn't just like, kids who hear voices or kids who are depressed. Like this is all kids. The state of their mental health significantly impacts their future. Huge. So some things that I see in my school. I see a wide variety of extra opportunities. I do see these non-academic things popping up for them to do. And especially in this COVID season, I have seen COVID provisions with community supports, with providing, lunches, providing internet, providing transportation. I do think our schools have stepped up in that. Our school emphasizes relationships, and I do think that is kind of a big step in academic and non-academic success. We do have this school-wide behavior intervention program, and our principal really does support teachers. I think she listens and she wants to do what's in the best interest of the people that she serves. What I haven't seen is adequate professional development, but I think in my 3 states and 4 schools in years, I don't think I've ever felt professional development has been adequate in terms of mental health, community supports, and trauma-informed teaching. I have just never felt that this is an area that teachers are well equipped in. I don't do a good job of normalizing community resources. I think, when kids are hit rock bottom or families come to us in distress, we then reach out with community resources instead of normalizing the use of community resources for all families, regardless of if you're kind of on that mountaintop or in that valley. I think that our schools can do a better job of that. And then I think this shared emphasis on academic and non-academic. Again, we have a lot of the non-academic, but I feel like our district and kind of admin level always go to that academic piece. When I'm an administrator, I would like to increase the training on trauma, mental health, and student support, and increase the community involvement. So I believe that this correlates to the standard because it's really forcing us to understand that leadership is that piece that can connect, evaluate, and implement some of these pieces. We can focus on academics because obviously that's our job, but we have the power to really emphasize those non-academic pieces. I believe this is very relevant in this COVID season. This is an unprecedented season in academics. I believe that it is imperative that we're looking at the well-being of our students after they return from a long period away from schools, peers, and social interaction. Now more than ever, I think the leadership task is to not only provide academics, but to handle the huge burden that is going to be students' well-being when they return to us. And then again, as a special education teacher, I just think that this content is so important. I appreciate that this assignment really focused on some of those non-academic pieces. And I really believe that the information provided here is essential for the classroom setting. So I look forward to this class as a whole. I look forward to getting to know each of you better as peers and as classmates.